welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your hosts, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel, we are back again on our regularly scheduled program.
Yep. We never left our regularly scheduled program.
Well, not on our uploads, right?
But, yeah,
But
exactly.
as far as our live filming, we're back in the swing of things. We're getting some good games in lately. We're having a good time right now.
Yeah, I've actually been playing a lot of games. I played last Wednesday, played Tuesday this past week. We played Sunday this week. Well, I played Wednesday, Tuesday, Sunday, and we're playing again on Wednesday.
That's right. Yeah, and it's good times that we're going to be doing this because we have good games that we've played, good games that are coming up. We're preparing. We're playing a lot of games. I imagine we might talk about one of them.
Yeah, we've also been starting because this is filming for the month of September.
Yeah.
But we're also getting prepared for, how we like to do like Halloween stuff and Christmas stuff and stuff like that. So we need to get certain games played during that time.
Right.
So we played a Halloween game in August.
Absolutely. and we enjoyed it. And then not only that, we're getting a lot of our Kickstarters in now.
Yep.
And we're getting a lot of these things. And we've special ordered a couple of games. You might see it over my shoulder that Daniel ordered a couple specialty games here. Pokemon fans rejoice. It is worth it because we got a chance to play it. G.A.M.E.R Geek came over and played. Man, we got gaming now.
Yeah.
We're gonna have some fun.
It's been fun, especially since apparently I remember I was just listening to our podcast not too long ago just to make sure everything was going right. Because I have to make sure everything's proper.
Sure.
And so I was listening to us talking about how it was our most recent one. We were talking about the chits and giggles where we're talking about the dog days of summer and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And this is supposed to be our monsoon season. It's supposed to be cooler. Today we tied a record for highs.
It did, but we have been having quite a bit of rain lately, and I know that because listeners of the podcast know that I'm a teacher. How many schools do you know that have to get shut down from mosquitoes? Because we have millions of them back there. They've been treated, but at the time when the students were starting to come back, multiple days we couldn't have recess because going outside meant that our students would be eaten alive. Well, that's the environment we live in.
Well, the thing is, where your school specifically is, that's where all the farmlands are. So you had all the canals and stuff like that. So, I get
stagnant water.
Yeah.
And I mean, the ground, it's a great field, but it is, it's not level.
Yeah, for a reason.
For a reason, right? Because, nature, who knew? But because of that, there's pools of standing water every once in a while, and it's just...
And that's only a couple miles from where I live, and so we still get a bad mosquito over here, because the river is, right down the road from us, too.
Exactly. I live 2 blocks away, and I'm, my knees, I'm not going to tell you to feel my leg, but, I can feel the mosquito bumps, literally... through my pants, I can feel bumps on my legs because of how bad they are.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Exactly. And so, I was also thinking about the fact that, with the mosquitoes and stuff like that, I was thinking, because how we were playing the Night Cage recently?
Yes.
I was like, man, I should have made a citronella candle. We were getting eaten up for mosquitoes that were just coming into the house.
And that's the funny part. They weren't coming in too badly throughout the day, but then, that one game where it's all right, we're going to turn the lights off. It's going to be set to the...
Exactly. It's
mosquito. Oh.
I'm just going to buy a citronella candle and just put it on the end of the table. This way we're not getting bit up while we're playing board games.
It's should I move this time? Hold on real quick.
I need to get that annoying...
Yeah, oh my goodness, yeah. Just eating up, man. They are... Oh, you're lucky then. If you don't get mosquitoes around your neighborhood, that's fine.
Yeah, lucky.
But yeah, we've been getting the monsoon season in my neck of the woods. And on top of that, my grass grows really well in my front yard. And so do the weeds that pop up from time to time.
Yeah.
And we just had our landscaper maybe a week and a half ago. We already have a foot tall grass.
I believe it.
Just because of the 2 rainfalls we've had. It's ridiculous.
Alrighty, but with that being said, we should really get into our topic today. It's a top 8 debate for the month of September.
Yeah, speaking of nature, right?
Oh, yeah, very much so. We decided to do another artist. We've done Vincent Dutray and I believe Andrew Bosley, if I remember correctly.
Something like that. Yep.
It was... I know Vincent Dutray first, because that's how we met Tabletop Bellhop. He actually came in when we did that top 8 debate. But yeah, it's been a while since we've done an artist.
Yes.
So it's kind of nice to be doing this. We're doing Beth Sobel art, and she's actually becoming one of my favorite artists when it comes to board gaming.
Some of her stuff is really quite pleasant, and it's great to see, any females that are in the hobby, that are part of our industry. It's worth celebrating them, right?
Oh yeah, exactly.
And just because for the longest time prior to 10 years ago, there was nobody.
Well,
but now we have a combination of our number one seed. Spoilers ahead, if you're not willing to wait 15 minutes. Our number one seed is not only a female designer, but a female artist as well.
Which is a group of female artists. That's the thing.
That's true, right.
It's mainly a bunch of females. The only male that ever really interacts with that game is Stegmaier. Yeah, the publisher.
He's developed it a little bit.
And it's just because of development. He's like, no, I give all the credit to the designer and the artist. That's all them. I just help when they ask for it.
Yep. He just publishes the game, and they did an amazing job on it. So it's going to be worth celebrating this art. And not only that, I agree with you. Some of the more striking games. You can't see it, but there's Cascadia right above your head. There's a number of different other games that she's done the art for.
Yeah.
And it always pops.
One right over there by Point Salad Evie.
That's right, exactly. Gloomhaven, huh? No,
okay. By the way, that's Frosthaven.
Oh, so sorry.
Come on.
But no, we're going to be celebrating, and you'll notice a theme on this. So obviously, this goes without saying that our art and production category is weighed a little bit, but we can still judge it based on the graphic design, the production of the pieces,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so it's not just her art. She works with a lot of different companies, so we're looking forward to that.
Kind of.
Well, I mean,
and I think it's the only reason they're so highly rated is just because of the company itself.
Sure.
That we're making a joke. You'll hear it when we get into that aspect of it. But with that being said, you want to flip the coin to find out what we've been playing?
Yeah, let's find out what we've been playing lately. Here we go.
That's you.
That is me. The first one I wanted to talk about. First, I got to give a shout out to one of my friends of the podcast, who's one of our first supporters of when we first started doing the podcast. We love these people, Justin and Anne-Marie DeWitt.
Oh yeah.
I just got Ultimatch in the mail.
I'm still waiting on mine.
I know
what's going on there.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it'll come in, but I just got it on Amazon and I ordered it. I got it in the mail, and I set it up, and my wife came up and she was like, "Huh, what's that?" And which she doesn't do, by the way. Ever. And I was like, yeah, you want to try this game with us? And she just looked at it. It was like, yeah, it looks like Uno. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. But we're working together. And she was like, okay. And then I told her, I was like, this is made by the same guys who made Castle Panic,
Okay.
And she was like, okay, I tend to like their stuff. All right. I'm willing to give this a try. And we played it. And 15 minutes later, we lost miserably, by the way. We did pretty badly. Which is typical.
About a par for you.
Right, yeah, right.
The first time he played this, when we were at the G.A.M.E.R Expo with one of the designers, lost it in the third move.
Yes, it was really bad. So we were playing it, and we lost. I was like, yep, we didn't win. She was like, okay, I'd play that again. I was like, when? She was like, bring it with us. Well, we go out at lunch. I'm like, okay. And she was willing to try it again. And that's such a great sign. I love it when that happens, because the whole point of why we get into gaming is because we want to spend time with friends and family and share that joy with them. That's really it. I mean, we're adults playing with toys, right? Let's be real. But yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. That's our real big thing. And when I find a game that my wife really enjoys, that's so engaging. So then I brought it to the restaurant. We played half of a game of it, lost again. Brought it home, showed it to my wife and kids, and we ended up destroying it. We're like, yeah, show them how it's done, And it was so exciting. And of course, every time there's an Ultimatch, we have to go Ultimatch, and really make it dramatic. And it really just kind of makes people feel clever. Super awesome. I enjoyed it a lot, and I know you like the game quite a bit too.
Oh yeah, no, I really do enjoy the game a lot, and it is a fantastic game.
Right.
I just want my copy. I don't know where it's at.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like I said, I'm sure you'll get it. But yeah, that's what I've been playing lately. We played probably about 4 games of it since I got it, which is pretty unheard of.
Well, the reason why I truly do love Ultimatch, it's a quick little card game that doesn't have a big table presence.
Yeah.
So you can play it in a pub or a bar or something like that. And another reason why I like it so much is it plays quickly.
Right.
And it's actually really language independent too. Yeah. It's just conversations and stuff like that. So no, it's a fantastic game. It's probably one of my highlights from the Gamma Expo.
It's one of mine as well. I do want to give one little knock to it. And I know we're not reviewing it or debating it right now because eventually we will. There is one little knock. The inside cardboard tray that it comes in, it's pretty bad. Mm. Like just the packaging alone.
In all honesty, I'm not even going to keep that. It's going to go in there.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. I'll probably throw it in a tuck box. My only quarrel with it is the cardboard is tucked inward, and so there's a lip underneath. So it holds everything in the middle, except for like the few cards that slide underneath, and you always have to like meander, and it's like I just don't like it.
So but the first
that's
game
a minor thing.
I'm going to talk about, and this is from a while ago. Honestly, this was back before my vacation. I want to say it was about mid-July when we played this one, but that's how far back I had to go. It's like I've been playing a lot of games. I want to get these two at least highlighted for this week. But the first one I'm going to talk about is I was very hesitant to play it. I wanted to, after playing its successor, and it's supposed to be the smaller version of it, and I wasn't as enamored with that, and that was Mobile Markets.
Oh, right.
So we played the bigger version, which is the one I specifically own, Smartphone Inc. Right. And I love that game. That was a fantastic game. I really enjoyed it. And I went into it very hesitant because of how Mobile Markets left a bit of a taste. It wasn't bad by any means. I just think Mobile Markets doesn't...
Well, I'll say it. If I'm reviewing it, I didn't like it at all. I would say it was bad for multiple reasons. But... Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead and finish that.
I thought it was fine. I would probably rate Mobile Markets a 5.
Yeah, probably 6.
At minimum or so. Maybe a 6 because it does have some smart choices. It just doesn't come out as well as it does in Smartphone Inc.
Right.
Smartphone Inc. has most of the same mechanisms that Mobile Markets does, except for it's more through a board. You go through all the same phases that you do in Mobile Markets.
Right.
But they make more sense as you're playing the board because you're expanding your network, you're moving into new territories, but there's certain things that you need to attach to it. Right. And I thought that was really, really fantastic how it really integrates a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
This is one of the few games where I want to play at a higher player count. We played a 3-player game of it.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I want to hit it at a full player count because it moves that quickly. Mm-hmm. A lot of the turns are basically at the same time. Everybody's fixing how they want to assign their things, and then you go here and here. The only time is like when you're creating something and you're moving down for turn order or moving up for turn order and how you're selling to areas.
Right.
And what I liked about this one over Mobile Markets is even though I'm selling at a lower price than you are, because you're on the other side of the board and I'm not in that market, I can't snipe you on certain things, especially in the very beginning of the games, because I'm over here, you're over there, and damn it, Dom's over in South Africa, so it's more, we're not fighting over each other right then and there easily.
Right.
Whereas in Mobile Markets...
It gives us some time to build up that engine.
Get your engine built up. In Mobile Markets, it is immediate. Whoever's selling low keeps going all the way low until they can't anymore. And then, so the person who's going last in Mobile Markets could be hosed and not sell any of their phones.
Right.
Unless they have private contracts. And even then, their private contracts are not going to do anything for you. Smartphone Inc. has a way around it. I don't know why they decided let's put this massive flaw in this smaller version of the game.
Right.
Whereas, like, you already had it perfected.
Right. And, like, I felt like... I'm going to add to yours. So when... I mean, I was obviously, like, the outlier. You, Gamehead Geek, Damn It Dom, like, you were all like, okay, Mobile Markets was okay.
Fine, yeah.
I very much was against it. I hated that game.
That's because you got
I was
all the time.
And it was I had no control over how that worked. And that was the frustrating part about it, is that no matter how good I did, there was situations where you guys were making the reasonable, logical choices, and I was unable to come up from that.
Yeah.
And even Gamehead Geek experienced that a couple times.
Yeah.
If you're last in the market, you're just not going to sell. Like, why even try at that point?
And you're very lucky if there's like 1 or 2 cards still left for you if you're in the last of the market. Like, I might try mobile markets at a smaller player count.
Sure, maybe.
There might be a better choice and stuff out there.
Well, the frustrating part about it is that, like, it discourages you for going for extremes. Like, you could make, like, super high-quality, awesome tablets or phones or whatever. It's like, I'm going to do it, like, the high-price stuff because that's what I'm going to go for. And it's like, but nobody will ever buy them. So it's, all right, well, I'll go for the super cheap, but I'm not going to make any profit.
Yeah.
So the logical choice, go for the middle. But everyone else does.
Yeah.
So if I just, like, leg up by $1 or maybe less, like, why am I even doing this at this point? So with that being said, this is not to knock mobile markets. This is talking when you busted out Smartphone Inc. I was very hesitant,
Same.
and I was like, I hope this doesn't suck because
that
was such a bad taste for me. And I was like, this has got to be better than that, and it was really better than that.
It really was. It was fantastic. I really liked it. The components are fine for like the base copy.
Sure.
Like, the Kickstarter probably would have been slightly better, but I liked how it came. When we're talking about art and production, there's not really a lot of art. It's a whiteboard.
No, it still does better.
But the graphic design is fantastic.
The graphic design, even the map on the board was more thematic. Like, it looked like it was like a digital display, which is
what
cool.
I find funny about this game in mobile markets,
it
has about the same table presence because mobile market is just a bunch of cards laying all over the table, and this is an actual game board on the table. It's like
you have less components. Smartphone Inc. is proof that mobile markets never needed to exist.
Yeah, no.
It really does. It does the same idea, but it does it worse in every way. It makes it more random, and it makes it unfun. And it's like the same length, too.
Exactly. And so that's why I was like, I like the fact that I own Smartphone Inc. I am not going to go out of my way to get mobile markets because I find Smartphone Inc. to be, in all honesty, the only reason I would go for a smaller version of a game is if it's something I want to take out to like a convention or out, like if I'm on a cruise ship or something like that, because I want something that is a smaller game that still gives me, like, I would take Trails over Parks if I went on a cruise again.
Yeah.
However, mobile markets doesn't even succeed in that process because it's almost as much as a table eater as Smartphone Inc. was. So, but yeah, Smartphone Inc. fantastic game, well done. Arcane Wonders in Cosmodrome, I think it's the company's.
Cosmodrome or Hobby World. One of the two.
No, it was Cosmodrome.
Okay,
but fantastic game.
Now, and I will say to add to that, and I know you're wrapping it up, but I'm going to add one more thing. I almost wonder now that we've played Smartphone Inc. if we played mobile markets again.
Would it make more sense?
Would it be more logical? And I almost wonder if that's a necessity to justify mobile markets. Maybe we're going to go back and play it and go, oh, okay, you know what? Now this makes a lot more sense, and our rating will go higher. So that's why we're not reviewing it, by the way, not yet, anytime soon, because it could have just been like
we weren't understanding certain concepts.
Yeah, you might have needed to know Smartphone Inc., and that would have informed the decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway.
Smartphone Inc.'s fantastic game.
Smartphone Inc. Love it. And the last game I wanted to talk about of games that I've been playing lately is a game that I showed you in our group. We played the 3-player version of it, which is what is recommended. It plays 2 to 4, and it is beautiful components. You and I have been
fantastic game.
Yeah, we have been very excited to play this. Throughout the game, and I know I haven't said the name because what you're doing, you have these modular tiles and ice blocks, and you are building essentially an ice temple that is 3D on the board. It is not a dexterity game. Please understand that. There's no dexterity involved. It's just a beautiful
or fast-paced for that match.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a timed game or anything like that. And we say that because it's designed by a designer I'm really quite a fan of, Kane Klenko. And this is from Thames and Cosmos. And this is Nunatak. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that, but it is Nunatak.
I thought it was Nunatak, so Nun Attack.
Yeah, that's how I remember how to spell it. This was I'm part of a demo program. This was thankfully provided by Thames and Cosmos, so I want to give them a shout out. They provided this to me. I love this game. I want to do a review of it.
Yeah, no.
Eventually, just to give them an extra little bit boost, because when we first saw this, we were like, "Ooh, what is this? What is this?
Yeah, no.
This is really neat." And we played the 3-player version of it, and I don't have anything bad to say about this game, with one little tiny exception. No game is perfect. I'll say my little gripe here in a minute. But what you have is you have these big, large cardboard tiles. They hold ice blocks in the middle of it. They have a symbol. All you do on your turn, you pull a card. There's 6 different types of cards. You place your ice block on a symbol that is matching that card.
And sometimes those cards will have special powers, which could be pretty advantageous to you.
The builder lets you swap a tile, and you still place it on the builder. So pretty much you have open source everywhere. Mm-hmm. And you also have the elders, which lets you pull blessings. However, each of these 6 different cards, you're going to be scoring by placing your blocks down. I'll come back to the cards in a minute. When you place your block down, if you make a 2x2 square, then you're going to score it. Whoever has the most blocks in that gets 5 points. Second most gets 2 points. Unless it's a tie for second most, then it's 1 point each.
I do like the little tiebreaker as well.
Yeah, unless the person who placed the block is the one who was part of the majority. So let's say you have 2 blocks down, I place my second block. You and I would normally be tied, but since I placed my block on it, then instead we split 5 points. Or not split 5 points. I get 5 points because I did that, and you get second place.
Yep.
However, if I place it down and I'm tied for second place, I would get the 2 points. We don't share at all. And then whoever had the majority would still do that. That's true in a 2 and a 3 player game. Except sometimes in a 4-player game, the exception is if there's one of every color, in which case nobody scores. Which didn't happen in ours because we played 3.
Yeah.
Once you build that 2x2, then you place another tile on top of it on the next layer. And then if you build a tile or a block on top of that tile, then you get 1 point for every block that is supporting it, the supporting blocks. So if I have 2 tiles or 2 blocks and I place my block on top of it, I get 2 more points just by placing it there. So it's kind of a point salad thing. There's ways to get points. There's other ways to do it, like rows and columns. You get architect points there, and each of the 6 different types of cards score in a different way at the end of the game. It sounds like there's a lot. There's really not. It's actually an incredibly simple game. It plays super fast. It is fun and engaging. The components are beautiful.
It was less than an hour, and that was
I want to say 45 minutes, yeah.
And that was with the teach.
Right. Exactly. It was really quick. And you have this beautiful tower. Check our Instagram because we posted pictures of it. Thanks to Daniel here. It's beautiful.
Oh, no, it's fantastic. It's by far one of my favorite games that you brought over in general.
Yeah, in general, right? I was really excited.
Because we give you the grief to having like the ugliest games and stuff like that. Because you bring over all these
rightfully so.
Yeah, well, a Starry is for one thing.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong.
But this one is... it is gorgeous.
Right.
It looks really cool when you bring it up, or when you're building it up and stuff like that.
Sure.
I have one gripe with this game, and it's a small, quibbling gripe. The towers, the little cube things, they're not differentiated enough for us to see when you're placing the tiles on top and you're trying to figure out, okay, is that mine or is that Damn It Dom's?
Specifically with the light green
in the white.
And the clear, yeah. Those were, just because you see the little parts that's supporting it, that was a little hard to see.
Yeah.
Now the dark blue or purple, and orange, really good differentiations. There was just a little bit of that. I almost wish that they did it fully transparent instead of white. Mm-hmm. That would have,
or even just instead of like white. I mean, I know it's going for like the ice and stuff like that. Well, just give us the basic colors. Give us like a yellow one, so it's yellow snow or something. But because it was hard to differentiate, especially when you're trying to differentiate from the top. Like if you see the cube of them, that's fine.
It's really obvious, yeah.
But when you're putting it there in the middle, and you're putting it in the middle, and you're like, okay, is that a green or is that a clear?
Right, exactly. And the only other gripe that I have is I hate playing with dummy players. And now this doesn't have a dummy player.
The 2-player
be clear.
Does.
No, it doesn't actually. I found out it doesn't. What you're doing instead is that you each split up. Like let's say you and I are playing. We take a third player's worth of blocks, and we each get half of those. And then we set aside 2 of our blocks and 1 of our opponents. And over the next 3 turns, we need to put down one of the third player's blocks. That won't count for us, but it will still count for this mythical third player that will score at the end. It's not playing random. It's not an AI or anything. We're choosing where it goes, but it also scores against us. So it's kind of like a neutral player in a way.
Which is a dummy player in a sense.
In a way, right? It's a roundabout way of skirting on it. And they even say in the rule books, it's like it is best at 3 or 4 players.
Yeah.
However, if you want to play a 2-player, here's how you do it, and this is the way you do it, which is fine. Again, those are minor quibbles. For ultimately really awesome game. The solution to that, play 3 or 4 players.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game. I really did enjoy that one a lot.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the best games that you've brought over recently.
It really has. And I just looked at the other games we played that night. There was Night Cage, which is beautiful.
Was fantastic, game. Yeah,
right.
no.
I'm talking purely by the looks. Night Cage, beautiful game.
Yeah.
Red Outpost was good art. And the pieces were great.
It was a smart game, though.
Yeah,
it was interesting how it was. Right. Yeah, there you go. That's the word I'm looking for.
Clever. It was very clever. And then, because I'm doing this World in Progress, the art was fine. Right. And then we played Byword, which doesn't need art.
That game, not Byword, but World in Progress.
Yes, World in Progress.
First off, it took us forever to remember the name of the game. All night we kept calling it like Work in Progress or something.
World of Progress. World in Tiles. Like
not very memorable though.
Yeah, not memorable. And the fact that
we played a more memorable tile placement game yesterday.
Yes.
That I remember more than that one was at Life in Rotera.
Yeah, exactly. But then the final one, which is probably the ugliest game out of all of them. Bywords. But again, you're not.
It's a spelling game.
It's a spelling game. If you're looking for beautiful art on letter tiles, why?
Yeah,
why?
Exactly.
Go upwards and at least have like tiles that stack. I guess that's I don't know. But Noon Attack, gosh, I fell in love with that game. That's staying in my collection for a long time. Tames and Cosmos, you did it again.
Yeah,
you did it again.
Fantastic game. So the last game I want to talk about is. This is, I think, on the same game night. I wanted to make sure I get this talked about even before our vacation, and I just have to time it because I really did enjoy this game. I thought it was a fun game. You really enjoyed this game, but it has one problem with this game, and that is one of the things we knock it for in our top 8 debates, and that is analysis paralysis. This is one of your favorite Thunderworks games, Metro Runner.
Oh, yeah. Metro Runner was really cool.
It is a really smart game. It's really awesome. The theme is fantastic. I like how it's a worker movement game. Guys, it's a rondel. Come on. Yeah. Don't have to get fancy about it.
Yeah, that's just...
But it's really neat. I have the upgraded puzzle pieces because there's a little slide puzzle aspect where you're trying to hack the thing.
Amazing pieces.
Yeah, I have the metal versions of them. I think I moved them somewhere around here, but I have the cardboard pieces somewhere around here. Still a pretty cool game. I love the little puzzle pieces. I like the fact that we all try to do something differently. First off, we need more cyberpunk themed games, right? Because that is always a fun theme.
It really is.
I love the hacking aspect.
The hacking theme, there's plenty. There's quite a few cyberpunk. Not as much as other themes, right? It's not like zombies.
There's more steampunk than there is cyberpunk.
Yeah, there's more steampunk, but then there's cyberpunk, but then hacking.
Yeah, on top of that,
we just reviewed a trick taking one, right?
Yeah.
Black Hat.
White Hat.
Yeah, one of the two. We just reviewed that, and then we commented on how few hacking themes there are. Sorry, I love hacking theme. I think that's a great theme.
And there's a hacking mechanism in this one.
Yeah.
And then it's like if you get to a certain point, you can hack for bigger prizes.
Yeah.
But you always have to make sure you have this one hack secured. And so you keep doing that aspect. And it's the whole time, it's like the game's moving quickly, and then someone decides to hack, and all you see is this.
Yeah.
And then you'll see, sometimes people are, just sitting there, not even paying attention to other people's turn because they're trying to come up with the puzzle, and you're just sitting there okay, I think I figured it out, and no one mess with the one I want to do.
Right.
And then there's asymmetrical powers, which is really cool. So I had, my special move, you have your special move. I could literally swap 2 pieces in the hack.
Yep.
And so I thought it was really fantastic. It had a lot of really cool stuff to it. There was a couple knocks to it. Like I said, the analysis paralysis
hurts. Yep.
And it could have been a little bit more colorblind friendly. There was some issues with it.
And specifically they had the symbols on the cubes and they had the different designs on it. That we appreciate that you're making the attempt. But when they are the size of half of a pill, this tiny little dinky icon on the cards, that visualization doesn't come out as clear as it could.
And then another one is, and this is just a slight thing, and I know why they did it because it's important for the game. Yeah. But the board itself was just a little busy for my liking.
Sure.
It could have been a little more cleaned up, but other than that, I mean, like I said, these are little quibbles. The colorblindness could have been better. They made an effort, which I'm not gonna. And my issue with the colorblind friendliness is not just like you. That they're really small, but and it's kind of hard when you're doing it when you have cards of one color that's telling you something and the resources are a different color because they're cubes.
Sure.
That can be a bit of an issue because it's like, okay, I get this is pink, but that looks red to me.
Yes.
That kind of thing. So other than that, the game was fantastic. I really did enjoy it, and probably one of my favorite Thunderwork games that they've come out, especially the ones outside of the Ulos era.
Yes.
Where it's not in the role player realm and stuff like that. So it is a fantastic game. I like this one, and I also think I like the roller coaster one, Tenpenny Park.
I'm thinking about it. This might be my new favorite of theirs. Like, really? I really was impressed by it. It just does a good job. Tenpenny Park I enjoyed, but like ever since we played it and I bought my own copy, I haven't played it yet. I haven't
played it this year.
To play it.
Probably will play it next year, maybe, or later this year.
If you brought Tenpenny Parks to me, I'd probably be like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'd play it.
Yeah.
But like if you brought Metro Runner out right now, it's like, all right, let's stop the podcast. Like I want to go play that again.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just really cool.
It is a really good game.
All right, so we're going to get into today's episode right now, and this is a top 8 debate. Again, we said at the top of the list, this will be Beth Sobel art. Before we get in, we've made a slight change to our criteria that we want to bring up right now. Listeners of the podcast, you know that we had the same 5 criteria over the time, and we'll still break it down a bit. We had ease of play, replay value, all those things. We changed up the order. This is now going to be a different kind of ranking systems. Now it is going to be game immersion. This is the game fun to lose, the player interaction, like table talk, role playing, all that fun stuff, and the memorable moments that come out during the game, like the moments that make you stand up and shout, and it's super fun. I said earlier with Ultimatch, you get excited when you make an Ultimatch.
Yeah, and so the next one that we will be arguing is art and production. It'll be the art, the pieces and components, and of course the graphic design.
Then we have meaningful choice, which is the impact on other players, depth of strategy, tactics, and skills, and do arbitrary choices or AP analysis paralysis have an impact negatively on the game.
And then next up we have ease of play, the simplicity and familiarity of the mechanism, the likelihood to get to the table, i.e. through the mechanism or theme, or is it easy to learn, understand, and or teach?
And finally we have replay value, which is the length of time and scaling well per players, the minimum number of plays for the full experience, and finally the expandability for current, existing, and previewed upcoming expansions confirmed. Now, the reason why we changed this up... And it comes with
a new name. It's no longer the 5 criteria.
This is no longer our 5 criteria. This is our G.A.M.E.R criteria. That's right. G.A.M.E.R. After 5 years, we figured out it makes an acronym. And we didn't figure this out till now, so feel free to shame us in the comments. But these are now the G.A.M.E.R criteria. Remember, game immersion, art and production, meaningful choice, ease of play, replay value. Now we can finally have a legitimate reason to debate these, as if we didn't already.
Yeah, it only took us 5 years. So
it only took us 5 years. And I brought it up during our last podcast, and I was like, you know what I realized today? And you're like, what's that? And I'm like, we could rearrange these. Make it say G.A.M.E.R. And you were like, that's stupid. Let's do it.
And the fact of the matter is, I'm like, we'll do it on the next episode because we're already halfway through this episode.
We're already halfway through this episode. So now you have our G.A.M.E.R criteria. If you need that again, we'll talk about it here in a bit. But before we do that, let's talk about some honorable mentions.
Well, why don't we tell them the games that we're going to be competing against first?
Sure. Well, let's do that. That makes sense. I was so excited about the new order of our criteria, our G.A.M.E.R criteria. All right, we're going to have our first one, which is number 1 seed, Wingspan.
Going up against our number 8 seed, Endangered.
Then we have our number 2 seed, Viticulture Essential Edition.
Going up against our number 7 seed, and the oldest game on this list, Snowtails.
Then we have our number 3 seed, Cascadia.
Going up against the 6 seed, Lanterns, the Harvest Festival. Not the roll and write, the actual tile laying game.
Yep. And our number 4 seed, Verdant.
Going up against our number 5 seed, Between Two Cities.
Yeah.
So I noticed a pattern here.
Yep.
And we were talking about it.
Yep.
Stonemaier Games really like Beth Sobel art, so they've been working a lot with her, apparently.
Yep.
And 2, she really does a lot of animal stuff in nature.
Yeah. Well, now, hold on. I do want to point out that both Verdant and Cascadia are from AEG as well. And they're from the same designer, so it's worth knowing that as well. And 3 of the 5, or 3 of the 8 are Stonemaier. 2 of those other ones are AEG.
Yeah, well, not just that. And then 4 out of the 8 deal with animals.
Yes. And definitely a lot of landscapes and, nature. Pretty much all of them have nature in some way or fashion. So, I mean, Lanterns isn't technically nature, but it's still on water and it's beautiful lanterns. So, sure. I mean, but they all showcase her art, which is really important. Yeah. So let's get into our honorable mentions.
Starting with the audience.
Because we always give an opportunity for our friends over at the Board Game Revolution Forum to post their comments on here and talk about why they picked the games, why they voted for them, and which ones they want to add on. And Kyle added
Undergrove. And what's interesting about this is Undergrove is not out yet.
It's not out yet, but the
beautiful. Art is fantastic.
Yeah, and it's about like the mushroom undergrove, like right? Is this the right one?
It is about the mushroom undergrove in the forest.
From AEG, by the way.
And it is I'm trying to think of it. It's a symbiosis between the trees and the undergrowth, or with the mushrooms and stuff like that. Right. The mushrooms feed the trees feed the mushrooms.
Yeah, and it's considered like the largest plant because it's all one system.
Yeah,
it's technically considered like one plant in a way because of just how they've all morphed together and created this one system.
Elizabeth Hargrave co-design on this one as well.
Yeah.
With Beth Sobel art is like.
Yeah, it's probably going to be amazing.
It's going to be good. Yeah.
I mean, let's be real.
I haven't found an Elizabeth Hargrave game I did not enjoy.
Yeah, I haven't either. I mean, I've mostly enjoyed them. I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not a fan like you are. But like, if we ever got Elizabeth on the podcast, I would definitely praise her because I really respect her designs.
Oh yeah, no, I really do have to get you to play the Fox Experiment. I think you would dig that one.
I think I would too. I want to try Mariposas actually.
Mariposas is pretty cool too.
Yeah. But speaking of Beth Sobel art that was added on, was there any comments on it? I don't believe so. Okay, cool. One person just clarifying whether we're talking about the games or art. Since they're all her art, we're not ranking it by art here.
Yeah. But if you want to talk about the art, talk about the art. Or which one
do
you find is the game, and that's what I told the guys. Like both, knock yourself out.
Yeah. And so our next 3, our honorable mentions, are going to be games that have her art, but we have on our honorable mentions for different reasons. Daniel, you'll be starting us off.
Yeah. So the first game I'm going to talk about is, I'm a fan of trick-taking games. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite trick-taking games is Little Devils. And when we interviewed the designer of this specific game, he mentioned that he took a lot of the design elements of Little Devils and tried to make his own type of trick-taking game. Yep. And this one, for me, is Trickster. Yep. I find this game to be a fantastic game. It has some great art in it, Beth Sobel art. And I really did enjoy this. I like the way it works. I love the pull, or per se, and you're trying to figure out how you want to... Because one person is going to set the trump. One person is going to play a card.
Yep.
The next person is going to set the trump. If they play the same type of card, then the suit is going to be the character. Uh-huh. If they play the same type of color, then the suit is in that color.
Yep.
Or if they play something completely off, then everything has to be completely off.
Right.
And so I really do like the way this one plays. I need to take it to my other game group that I play a lot of trick-taking with and see how they think about it. But I adore this game. I find it fantastic. It's a fun little trick-taking game that is not overly convoluted as some of the trick-taking games we've played lately. So, yeah, it's fantastic. My first honorable mention, Trickster.
Yeah, and her art in this is one of the few examples that, like... I say few. There's plenty of examples of her drawing like people and whatnot, but non-nature things. And the mystical aspect of it was really neat, the way she does it. The first one I want to talk about is, I mean, we're going to talk a lot about nature, so I won't belabor it too much because I always talk about this game whenever I bring up her art. Because I think this is the premier showcase of her art. It's a pencil-first game from Steve Finn. This is Sunset Over Water. Has absolutely gorgeous artwork. Every piece is every card is its own beautiful landscape. Mm-hmm. It has all nature themed, and literally the game is about relaxing in nature. Like your meeples are literally just like sitting down and just relaxing and enjoying the piece of it.
Yeah.
So if you didn't have premier art, then it wouldn't be nearly as good, and you would not have been able to do it without her artwork. It is phenomenal. I can't stress it enough. And the game itself is a really clever movement game. Collect cards for different reasons, like different landscapes. It has different seasons in the different landscapes. Like you'll have mountains covered in snow. You'll have like a desert, like tropical thing. Like it's super cool. Sunset Over Water is my first one.
All right, moving on to my second one here is a game you haven't played, but I really do enjoy this, and I want to pick up a copy for myself. I played it only as a 2-player game with Gamehead Geek. Speaking of nature theme, this is kind of nature-y. It's about gardening, and this is Three Sisters.
Three Sisters, yeah.
So it's one of those bigger dual layer or double papered roll and write game. You're rolling some dice, you're writing on your board, depending on where you take it from and what number it is, you write into one of your 2 sheets. And it's filled with a lot of combo-tastics of it. I think there's 3 or 4 games in this kind of line. You have Fleet the Dice game, you have Three Sisters, and you have they just did
something else.
It's like Motor City or something like that, and then they just recently did French Quarter. So there's a car one, if I remember correctly, but French Quarter is the most recent one. Out of those outside Fleet the Dice game, Three Sisters is my favorite that I've played so far. Fleet the Dice game is fine. I think Three Sisters is actually a better game than that one. But yeah, no, the gameplay itself is very smart. The artwork is gorgeous on the sheets of paper as well as the box cover. It's about basically having an apiary or building pumpkin patches or a flower garden or however you want to build your garden. Yeah. And as most roll and writes do, doing something here can lead you to get a combo for you to start filling stuff over here, and therefore, so like if I do something really cool on the first page, it can start helping me fill up the second page without having to use the dice in the second part of the game and stuff like that. So it's a fantastic game. The artwork is great. It's Three Sisters.
Cool. This next one is a game, I thought the game was fine, but I do want to highlight because I really was impressed with her art on this. This is Subastral. This is a drafting game. And it's nature scenes, but it's also in space. And so you'll have like beautiful mountains, but then with like a geodesic dome thing covering over
I haven't played this one.
The cover is really, that's the premier one. But all of the other pieces are just like combinations of like her really cool style, beautiful like space themed, but then you have like the awesome nature as well. Because I'm not sure if it's Distant Planets or not. I don't remember. It's been a while since I played it, but I definitely remember that being as eye-catching because of her art alone. Subastral by Renegade Games.
All right, so for my last pick, and honestly, probably my favorite, not really game out of the honorable mentions, but my favorite of her art out of these honorable mentions.
Sure.
And this one, for me specifically, is a game that we actually played at the G.A.M.E.R Expo in 2021, I believe. It was shown to us when it was still in Reno, mind you.
Yeah.
This was shown to us from Floodgate Games. This is Kites.
Oh, yeah, Kites.
And the reason why
this almost made my list.
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to highlight this one is how you're mentioning how like all these other ones are like how it highlights her art. This is how punchy her art is. This game is just cards and sand timers.
Yeah.
But her art comes out on those cards, the kites themselves. It is fantastic. It's colorful. It's beautiful. It's probably one of by far the most gorgeous game that she's done art for on such a small plane, because it's literally just a bunch of cards and sand timers. The box cover is gorgeous, and you look at it and you know what that game is sort of about just by that box cover alone.
Yep.
And the game itself is fun because it's real time. You're trying to play out cards to keep the sand timers going, because if you ever run out of one of the sand timers, you lose, and you're just trying to play out your hands of cards as a group. It is a co-op game. Fantastic game. I remember we were doing like this whole little round robin speed dating thing at the G.A.M.E.R Expo, and we just ended up spending like 2 or 3 times with the guy from Floodgate just playing that.
Yeah, that it was like I could teach you how to play it, or I could play it. Let's go. And he just taught us how to play it. We're like, all right.
We played it. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, because they only give you like 5-10 minutes each time with the designer or the people. Yeah. And so we just kept playing it, and we got it through. We lost, not relatively quickly, but we held on. He's like, you guys held on the most out of some of the people I've shown this to, because we got close. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic game, and the art is amazing in it.
Yeah, I like that one quite a bit. And the last one I want to talk about is a shout out to Weird Giraffe Games, because this game, the game itself is interesting. You know, you're playing cards different ways, which Weird Giraffe specializes in. But what I want to really highlight is how this is my favorite of her art, hands down, Beth Sobel, because of one very specific thing it does. It has a landscape made up of 4 cards of a library. This is called Fire in the Library.
Oh, yeah, you showed me this one.
It looks like it's made in a book, and like an old book, right? And the cards mainly take place over 4 cards that you're put next to each other. That makes up the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And as the fire builds in one of those 4 corners of the library, you add cards to it, and fire starts building up from the corner and building until eventually you get to the 10th card, where it's just completely engulfing the scene. And the fact that she took that same scene and just kept evolving it a little bit more with the fire, it brings out a lot of really neat flavor and ambiance with the game itself.
That's cool.
Now, of course, I don't condone fires in libraries at all.
But I think it's supposed to be based on the Great Fire of the Library of Alexandria.
Alexandria, yeah. And so like this game, it's just such a fascinating feature, and her art not only is it beautiful, it adds the function too, and showing how the passage of time. If you see one completely like bright red because it's glowing, and the one right next to it is, you know, dull and calm, like, you know, the level of difficulty or the level of destruction that you're experiencing on this corner. It's really cool.
Nice. It sounds pretty cool. I remember you showing this to me. I haven't played it yet, but I thought it was really neat.
I haven't played it in a long time.
Yeah. Because I think you first saw it at a G.A.M.E.R Expo years
something like
ago.
that. Yeah, it's been out for a while.
So I want to say like 2016, 17, something
like that. Yeah, it's been a while.
All right, with that being said, those were our honorable mentions, and now it's time to get into the debate. Our rules for the debate is we have to pick the top 8 games on the Board Game Geek website, and they have to be games that we have both played because we need to make sound arguments. And we use our criteria, the G.A.M.E.R criteria, to break these games down. Yeah,
I want to give also one more quick shout out. And you brought it up, and the only reason I didn't put, because I know we're gonna get hate if I don't bring it up. At least Calico is not on our list because he has not played it, but also because it's cats. I don't condone this kind of behavior. But I will admit that the cats that that Beth Sobel drew, yes, I get it. They're super adorable laying on quilts. The cover should have a Calico on it, not an orange tabby. Anyway.
Yeah. And also. There's going to be cats in this list.
There will be.
You got some big cats, and there's some small cats that you didn't know about.
There's a few. Yep. I know about the big cats and some tiny cats. Yeah, yep. We'll talk about that. I'll talk about lighting things on fire with Lantern Festival more.
All right.
So we're going to get into this. Our first round is going to be Wingspan versus Endangered. As always, I'll flip the coin of doom to decide who debates. The cup of doom. To decide who debates first, and you'll decide which game we're going to debate. Here we go. That is you.
Wingspan. You don't remember Endangered at all.
I remember it enough.
All right. So, for me, personally, this is one of my favorite games, and we try to take our bias out of there, but it is going to come through from time to time. I have one issue with Wingspan. When we're talking about Beth Sobel art, it's not just Beth Sobel. There's 2 other artists that do the art on this one. It's all fantastic.
Right.
It is probably by far one of the most beautiful games out there, just because the way they do the art on the cards, they're trying to make it look like a bird book from I think it's the Audubon Bird Society and stuff like that. They give you some really good facts and stuff like that.
Sure.
You don't really get the game immersion in that aspect where it gives it a theme. I get it a lot because, again, I used to be a birder, and I still do. I still like watching birds, but I don't do the whole, I got my book, and I checked off the bird I just saw in the book, and then try to fill out that book, that kind of thing. I still appreciate birds. I love going to like zoos and if they have like a free-flying aviary and seeing all that sort of stuff. So Wingspan gives you that aspect. There's a wetlands not that far from us, and I remember going to see it one of my first field trips in middle school. And it's by far one of my favorite places because that was about the time my uncle got me into bird watching, and you would see cranes and egrets and stuff like that. So with the way the board is designed, it gives you that here's the forest, and here's the grasslands, and here's the wetlands, and these are the birds you would see in that aspect. So I get that feel coming from there. You just more along the lines, okay, this does this and this that.
Yep.
I also like the fact that how this board, as you're making it more powerful, you can use resources from another board, like drawing cards to help you get more food resources, and how they're cylindrical, so they help you in that aspect. So if you got your engine firing properly. When we're talking about the art and production, G.A.M.E.R is by far one of the best producers of board games. They're really good when it comes to the components in the game design, the graphic designs and stuff like that, let alone the art. You have some smart, meaningful choices in Wingspan based on the games that you're playing and what you're doing. So I personally think Wingspan should move on. I think it is the stronger and better game. I own both of these games.
You own both, yeah.
I do enjoy Endangered a lot. I think it's a fantastic game. I think just as a game choice, I think Wingspan just comes out more.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you brought up a lot of good points on this. I'm going to say the best part about this game, and what my favorite part about Endangered, is the fact that cover is incredibly striking.
It really is.
That showcases Beth Sobel's art unlike any other game I've seen. Wingspan has an iconic cover. Endangered, you walk by and you're like, jeez, oh my goodness.
I'm being stalked.
That tiger is right there. You feel intimidated by it. It looks like a photo. It's so good. And the art in the game, it's fine. The game takes place over a grid. I was having to remind myself exactly how it is because it has been a little while since that is. But we're basically laying tiles out on the board, trying to gain kind of area dominance, I guess, in a way with the animals.
The tiles you're putting on the board are bad things.
Right, exactly.
It's basically, if you're playing the tiger side, it's the deforestation of the forest and stuff like that. So
yeah, and you're basically essentially trying to deal with that is what I'm saying. And while coming out on I'm just gonna say Wingspan is moving on because I remember after playing this, I was so excited because of that art. And we left, and I'm cool with abstracting games. That's totally
It's very abstract.
But it is incredibly abstract. It doesn't feel logical, and there's a lot of moving parts, and it's just not clean.
I need to have you play the sea turtle side. It makes a lot more sense, because the whole thing is you're trying to keep the ocean clean as they're coming up to breed. They don't breed like the tigers does, and they just pop off the...
Yeah, sure.
That one comes out a lot more thematic than the tiger version.
Yeah, I'd be willing to try it again.
But
as it is, I'm going to argue more against Wingspan later on because that's just...
That's who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I can't let all the Wingspan fans be, overwhelmed, which I love Jamie Stegmaier, by the way. Awesome dude.
Like I said,
but
it's going to be hard to any game outside of Stegmaier to win the art and production just because how well they do the production side of things.
Exactly. But it's not worth belaboring the point. Wingspan moves on. Sorry, Endangered. It is gorgeous, though. Arguably better art on the cover.
Oh, that cover is fantastic.
Yeah, that cover is so striking. All right, our next round is going to be Viticulture Essential Edition versus Snowtails. Here we go. You'll be starting us off again.
And I'm getting Snowtails.
Cool.
Which, again, I love both of these games. The Viticulture is in my top 100. If I play Snowtails more, it'd probably get up there. I think it's a fun little racing game.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But I find it interesting that Snowtails, I think, is one of the first games she did art for, and this was back in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
So she's been around for a while doing art for board games. I have a personal bias because Husky has always been my favorite dog. I have a miniature Husky in the house. If you stick around
for the after show, he comes in every once in a while.
And so, I love Huskies. But I've always found the Iditarod, the Husky, the snow trail racing and stuff like that, the Iditarod race, always fascinating that they use these Huskies and stuff like that. And my wife has already decided, since we did the whale watching this past time on the cruise, that we may do, if we do another cruise that takes us to Juneau, we might do so cool. the Husky, where they take you in a Husky, the wheels one though, because they don't have snow right now. But doing one of those,
God, you would love that.
I would enjoy the mess out of it.
You haven't brought that up yet, but man, that would be really cool.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So we were torn. We wanted to do the whale watching, so we were going to do the whale watching in, I believe, Skagway,
yep.
and then do the Huskies in Juneau. But the Juneau whale watching actually guarantees that you will see whales. If you don't, you get a refund.
Right.
And so the Skagway one, there's no guarantee that you would see the whales. And so we wanted, one of my bucket lists is the whale watch.
Yeah.
So we did that. So if we ever go back, I want to do the dog trail and stuff like that with the Huskies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But no, it's the game itself is interesting. I love the push and pull aspect of like, I need to lean into this turn, so I need to make the Huskies. I got to play the 4 next to the 5 over here. This way I can lean left. But now I got to even it out and put a 4 over there. This way they're evened out. So I love a lot of aspects of the way Snowtails works. It's an interesting take on a racing game. I have one issue with it. It is that if you don't play smart or you're just not drawing the cards that you need, you can get eliminated from the race right then and there pretty quickly. I ran into that problem where I ran right into a wall because I couldn't get the cards to level me back into the turn again. But other than that, it's a fun game. I love the modularity of the game where you're building like the different tracks and how you can add hazards and stuff like that to the game. I want to hear what you got to say about viticulture because I know which one I think should move on, but Snowtails is such a fantastic game, and plus it's got Huskies in it.
Yeah, who could argue with Huskies, right? So
Huskies could argue with Huskies.
They're allowed. That's true. We checked with the lawyers. We're good. They're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Legally binding. All right. So, Viticulture Essential Edition. So this, if I'm not mistaken, this has all 4 seasons, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The Essential Edition.
No. The 4 seasons come in the Tuscany expansion. The Essential Edition is just the 2 seasons.
All right, so you have the 2 seasons, but it's over the course of like a year, right? A full like.
You have the 4 season. It's just the first season is the wake up.
Right.
Then you do the spring or the it's spring is the wake up, and you're doing that part of the board.
Yeah, that half of the board.
Summer you're pulling cards.
Yeah.
Fall, you're pulling cards. It's something like that. It's summer is the board, then the cards, then the board, then the winter.
Cool. I just wanted to make sure that real quick before, because it has been a while since I played, and I do remember the 4 decks, because that's when we tend to play it.
Yeah.
But Viticulture Essential Edition, what you're doing in this game is you are essentially grape farmers, and you are you are making wine. And so you're growing different types of grapes, you are harvesting them at the right time, and you are basically turning them into wine or just selling them out, right? You know, you can do that as well. But you're trying to get to a certain number of points, if I'm not mistaken. Yes,
it's like to hit 20? The end game. I think it's 20. If you win a longer game, it's 25.
Yeah, something like that. So, see, I remember it pretty well, considering it's been years since I played it. But one thing, it's memorable. And one of the cool things about it is the worker placement. You send your workers out to the different spots, and you also have what's called a grande worker, which is basically you can take the bonus spot in each of those locations.
My favorite worker.
But what's really neat about this, and the reason I asked about the season first, is because you have 2 definite, distinct parts of the board. You can use as many workers as you want for the first half of the game before you draw cards. That's fine, but your choices are you don't get to use them over the next part because they have been worked to death and you're waiting for the next generation of hires to buy. Sorry, I got a little dark. But basically, any workers that work in the spring will not work in the fall and vice versa. And so that there's a bit of a timing thing. Knowing when you get to use your workers on the next phase is really big. And when you're like, I've done enough on this side, I could keep going, but then I won't be able to do this part. But then if it gets taken anyway, how am I going to deal with it? And having that push and pull is a really interesting decision. Now, that in that game, I do want to clarify, it can lead to some moments where you're like, I didn't plan for this, and it can be a level of frustration. It's not as extreme as other games, like we've seen with Northwest Passage. G.A.M.E.R completely stranded all his people, and they all died in a terrible snowstorm.
He didn't end with negative points, so there's that.
Cool. Yeah, he ended up with like 3 points. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was really kind of sad. And there is that moment where it's like, where every round you have that decision. You're like, am I going to do this? And it can hinder you because you do need to process the right time for the wine to mature. You need to have that planning out. And it does feel intriguing on that. While it's not crazy thematic, I do. The seasons feel thematic. That's cool.
My favorite
I don't like
is the component you haven't even mentioned. The little drops that highlight where you're at on the board.
Those are cool components, right? And they and like they look like little like drops of wine. Colors. Those are cool. And when we get to the components part of it, I'm sure that'll be a decision point. But this is a little more adversive to me because there is that part. It is more unforgiving than some of the others. Hey, Mazma. More unforgiving than a lot of the games that Stonemaier makes, and especially Wingspan included in that. It's when you make that bad decision, you could think, okay, well, I've learned my lesson. How am I going to adapt it for next round, right? Yep. That's fair. But then you're also at a disadvantage because if somebody didn't make that decision or it came out on top of that decision, then you have to really fight your way back or hope that they make that failure. And that's one of the few detriments to the game. Other than that, it does feel thematic. It feels cool. The art on it, of course, is gorgeous because it's Beth Sobel. Mm-hmm. But it's just a cool experience. The other drawback that I would also say is the fact that they made the base game, then they made the expansion, then they made the Essential Edition, then they made the Essential Expansion. And so it's like, that's a little weird, but that was also a learning project for Jamie State.
Yeah, it's one of his first games.
It's one of his first things, and that was a learning thing. And so I just wanted to clarify that, that docks it just slightly as far as the game development goes, and that's why we're debating specifically the Essential Edition.
Well, the Essential Edition was the highest, so.
With that being said, I do think that it makes sense for us to break it down just a little bit.
Works for me.
Because I can see either of them moving on.
Plus, you want to use the G.A.M.E.R criteria for the first
I do want to use the G.A.M.E.R criteria. Here we go. So, game immersion, you really feel immersive in Snowtails.
You feel it in both of them.
You do.
But I'm talking about, by our sub-criteria, is the game fun to lose? Both of them are legitimately fun to lose.
Yep.
You feel more of the loss in Viticulture, but it's also one of those games where, like, I could have done this better, and you're thinking about how you could have done your turns better. Yeah. And that is kind of immersive, too, because it makes you think about, I could have done this, or I could even when I win games, sometimes I don't go, oh, well, whatever.
Right.
But now, like, if I win a game of Viticulture, it's like, what could I done to get better points?
Yeah, but specifically in this criteria, right? And because that is something that's a meaningful choice. That impacts future games of it, right? But during, like, the sled one, you feel it's like, man, like, that's such a sharp turn pulling up. I gotta throw a 5 here. Go, dogs. Hike. Go. It's like, I'm leaning over. Like, everybody lean to the right, Like, it's, like, it feels exciting,
It
right?
does. It really does.
And I feel like
you really get into that race aspect.
Yeah. As far as the player interaction, I just feel it's more immersive. And I don't get those memorable moments in Viticulture. Like, I don't think there's a time where you're like,
Viticulture tends to be a little bit quieter.
Yeah, it's very calm. It's not a detriment. It's just saying, as far as immersive goes, Snowtails does feel it better.
No, my favorite memories of Viticulture is, actually drinking wine while we're playing the game. So,
well, I mean, you can have fun with that. That's cool. But art and production, I mean, I'm going to give it to Stonemaier easily.
Oh, yeah. Both the art is both good. There's better art, I want to say, in Snowtail, just because of the way the Huskies are drawn and stuff like that.
Sure.
But when it comes to the pieces and components in the graphic design, it's even if whether you're playing on the 4-season board based on the expansion or the 2-season board based on the Essential Edition, it is very intuitive how you're supposed to, what each of these do. Some of them give you discounts. Some of them allow you to draw extra cards. It's very intuitive how you see things.
Now, and I will point out, like, it's a small quibble, but the component where you're pulling out the little tile for the brake that's on your sled, but you're putting the cards for the left and right.
Yeah.
Just put the card there. Like, it didn't need to be a break. Like, it's cool, but at the same time, it's like, I don't like fiddling with that piece.
Yeah,
so
no, I don't
that's why
blame
art
you.
and production goes to Viticulture, I think.
Meaningful choice for me, I think, is
Viticulture.
And the reason, and I mentioned it when I was describing Snowtails, is the fact that it's kind of, you're still drawing cards up. So if you need to make a discount or either trying to even up your turn radius or make it a deeper turn, this way you're not running into the wall and you can get into the inside of the track. If you didn't draw your 5 and you needed that 5, that could be a detriment to the game. And it's not anything you did. It's just how the cards got shuffled.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, you're absolutely right on that. It's in real snow racing that wouldn't be a thing, right? And that's definitely not. And while I brought up that, not knowing when the timing works, like somebody who's experienced in viticulture will absolutely trounce anybody who's inexperienced. While that is a detriment, it is not as bad as random, right? And the random can hurt really bad in Snowtails.
Yeah, so it can. Yeah.
Meaningful choice, definitely. Viticulture. Ease of play, Snowtails.
Snowtails.
All right, replay value, though.
All right, so replay value, we're talking about the length of time and scaling well. Both of them are not short games, per se, at the player count. Snowtails is just slightly shorter because it is a race. But if you're playing at a 4-player game, on either one of these, they're still going to be a little bit long.
Right.
So that,
and I think it plays the same number of people, right? Isn't Snowtails only 4?
2 to 5 wingspan, or not wingspan. Viticulture is 2 to 6, if I remember out of the box.
Oh wow, okay, yeah. So, and then of course as expansion. So there we go.
Yep. Minimum number of plays for the full experience and expandability. There is one big expansion, which is the Tuscany Essential Edition.
Right.
And then there is a co-op expansion in Viticulture, Viticulture World. And there's also one other, or 2 small box expansions, Visitors and Rhinelands or something like that.
Yeah. So, hands down, yeah, it's and you need different number of plays for the full experience. Yeah, the modular boards are nice, but it doesn't change the experience. It just changes the tactics that you play with.
Oh, and we're not even talking about like all the other stuff too, because like there's different modulars that you can add in the expansion where you have like a little area control map or the school system or buildings that you can put into your So the Viticulture just has a lot.
Yeah, so Viticulture moves on. There we go.
All right,
but we gave Snowtails a chance. That's on you, not on us.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Our next round is going to be our 3rd seed, Cascadia, versus our number 6 seed, Lanterns Harvest Festival. Specifically the tile lane game, not the other one. And this is you again.
Really? I get Cascadia.
Okay.
All right, so the one I like the most is Cascadia out of these, so I like that. But I enjoy Lanterns.
You like the most? Not out of
not all of these.
Okay, I was going to say, it's like, you like that more than Wingspan? Oh, my God. Oh, I almost died a little bit.
Now, I think this is one of the best ones that showcases Beth Sobel art, because that cover is gorgeous.
Yes.
That cover will draw people to look at it on the shelf. The other thing about Cascadia 2, I think it is the better game. Don't get me wrong. I like Lanterns.
Yeah.
But it's basically pattern building in all aspect of it. In this one, it's not really. They're both tile placement games in a sense. Mm-hmm. But I like the way Cascadia works. You're drawing a tile and a token. Right. Now, you have ways you can mitigate that by spending tokens to allow you to not draw a set. You could draw a tile and then draw a token from another set.
Right.
And then you're trying to place them, and you have all these different scoring cards, which has expandability on there because each of those scoring cards score in different ways depending on which card you end up having for that game.
Yes.
And yes, the scoring is a bit fiddly, but I like the scoring in that aspect because you're trying to like, you know what? I'm not even going to worry about the deers because they keep getting taken from me, so I'm going to try to, get the scoring for the Eagles properly. Okay, now I got to make sure this one can see this one. So how do I feed that over there? Yep. I don't concentrate on all the scorings, and you don't have to. Right. You can concentrate on certain scorings where you think you're going to maximize your points, and that's fine. And then you have your bonus points where you can take the acorns, which is the way you can pick away from what you need to do. You also have your largest land masses. Whoever has the largest ocean will get more points. I like a lot of that stuff, because there's a lot of smart choices. And the big thing about Cascadia, there is a lot of smart choices to this game, but it doesn't take 2, 3, 4 hours that some of these like heavier Euros would do. You still get that nice crunchiness that you would get from a Euro, without going crazy. And so I personally think Cascadia should move on because I just think it's the smoother of the games and more fun aspects of the game. But I do like Lanterns, don't get me wrong. To the point I don't own it anymore because we played it so much for so long. It was like one of my wife's favorite games to play for the longest time, and then all of a sudden she's like, I don't get joy from this game anymore, and we never played it.
Wow, that's so blunt. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So it's just one of those things is like, okay, but again, Lanterns was one of the first games that we ever bought. At one point, we only had 10 games in our collection, so if you want to play something that's quick and punchy, that's why we had Lanterns.
Sure.
Cascadia, she's willing to play more and more Cascadia from time to time because of the variability of it.
Yeah.
And now they have an expansion out on Landmarks, so there's that as well. I need to pick that up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Lanterns, I'm going to argue for Lanterns. First off, this is one of the... I have a soft spot for like neon colors and like bright colors on
fireworks.
Dark things. Like fireworks. No, just in general. Like I always used to have UV posters. You know, I always wear dark clothing and then like pop it with like really bright colors like on my shoes and stuff. Like that's just that is a very big
we charge extra for that. Don't be doing that.
Right. Subscribe to our other accounts. Linktree in the description. No, but the thing is like a lot of our stuff that I've always appreciated is I've always loved like dark and then bright poppy colors on it. So Lanterns specifically I think is the prettiest out of all of these games. And I don't think that's her best art. I just like the look of it more than any others. Like the Lanterns Festival is absolutely something is a bucket list of something I'd want to do. I would love to see all those floating off into the sky and how beautiful it is. So with that being said, Lanterns, it is the simpler of the two games. Not by much. It's not difficult because all you do is you pick a tile and you lay it down next to a tile that's already on the board or in the play area amongst everybody. Everybody has a direction that they correspond to, and the tile you place down will show what color of card that everybody gets. If you match up the colors, you also get a bonus of that color. So if I put a pink next to a pink, I'm gonna take the color pink, and then everybody, including myself, is gonna take one card of the color that's facing their direction. So everybody's engaged on everybody's turn. You're basically just trying to trade in those cards for sets of different colors, and there's different scoring based on how difficult it is, like either all 6 colors or sets of all the same colors, like 4 of the same, or like a full house or two sets of 3, and they all have points, and they decrease the number of points that are on it. That's really all it is. It's just set collection, and then but one player based on the tile gets to decide who gets what, which is a really interesting aspect. I gotta say, I also like the dice game quite a bit too, so I've appreciated that. But with that being said, though, listeners of the podcast know my affinity for Spiel des Jahres winners, and Cascadia is one of those. While I do think Lanterns is the simpler of the game, just because the scoring does ramp it up, that also incredible replay value for Cascadia because of that. Art and production, again, the thick tiles are really nice, but you're going against fairly thick tiles and wooden tokens and beautiful pieces, and the bag on that. You could tell, like, Beth Sobel is a really good artist and has been for many years, but there's something about the covers she's coming out with recently that just pop.
Oh, yeah.
They're so incredible.
I have the new, the Roland Wrights version of Cascadia in I think it's Cascadia Rivers or Rolling Rivers or whatever. That is by far one of the best covers I've ever seen.
Even the expansion looks just captivating.
Oh, Landmarks?
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're fantastic.
But Lanterns has also been selling for Renegade for all of these years and still continues to do so. That goes to show for something. So out of all of these, I think the only one that I would give it is ease of play is Lanterns. The rest, I think, go to...
Yeah, I agree.
Go to Cascadia.
Alrighty, Cascadia moves on.
Okay. And our final battle of the quarterfinals is Verdant versus Between Two Cities. And I'll be starting for once.
Oh, no.
What an idea.
Come on.
All right.
The first one I saw was Between Two Cities.
Between Two Cities. So, this is the last of the 3 Stonemaier games that we're going to be talking about, and the one that, full biased, set aside, we're going to tell you this right now, Stonemaier did send us a copy for us to play.
Yes.
And that was one of our first and probably only, I think, actual live play that we ever did.
No, because we did all the Phil Walker and Harding games.
Oh, that's true. We did all those. Yeah, so that was our first one that was sent to us. It was sent to us free of charge from G.A.M.E.R Games after having him on the podcast. So we do very much appreciate him for that. With that being said, one of the really neat things I like about this, it has so many different ways of scoring, which I love modular scoring, which is one of the reasons Cascadia went on. But I love games that make you feel clever and have really cool little variations to it. And what this does is that you are using these tiles and you're placing it between you and your direct neighbors on the left and right. And when you place these tiles down, it's going to go into their city. What you're trying to do is be one of the two players who have the highest scoring city. And then in order to win, you have to have the second highest scoring of those two players. So you check both of your cities. You have to play smartly. It's a tile laying game, so I'm already biased towards it. And you have all these cool functions on how to score, but since you have to consider you want to be in the top scoring on one side, you want to ensure that you have it, but you can't ignore the other one, because if you hose it, it doesn't matter how good the first one is, you're not going to win the second. And you need both to be decent, but one to be outshining everybody else, because you can't have it perfectly balanced, because then you won't win that either. It's such a cool, like, conflicting like give and take, and I love how you're supporting these two cities that are next to you. I wouldn't say it's necessarily thematic, but it's definitely immersive, more so than Verdant does.
And we were talking about like game immersion, interacting the table talk and stuff like that. You are communicating with both your partners, where you're like, I think this works better in this city, and I know for sure this is going to be better in this city because how we're setting this city up over here. And you're making these big discussions. I like that aspect of it.
It's such a cool aspect of the game that I just don't see enough. Like, there's only a few other games that use your left and right neighbors. There's like Divinity Derby is one of them, and that's a racing game. And there's a handful of others, but I love it when that happens, and I always appreciate it when I see it. And Between Two Cities kind of highlights that aspect.
And what I like about Between Two Cities too, this is probably the one game I would enjoy playing at its high player count, which is 7 players.
Oh yeah, it's totally fine to 7 players.
Out of that, that's like the one thing that it has going for it. I can play it with 7 people and be okay with it.
Scales really well.
All right, so I got to argue Verdant. And this is going to be difficult for me because I remember very little of Verdant. And I remember it's like, why am I going to play this game when I can play Cascadia? Because it does a lot of the same things that Cascadia does. Now,
it was kind of like it started off with Calico, then it went to Cascadia, then it went to Verdant. Those are kind of like the 3 in line. They're not an official trilogy, but that's more or less what they are.
It's kind of the same mechanistically as
Cascadia
is, where you're drawing 2 things and you're trying to build. I think it's like the best in-house garden or something like that, because you're pulling plants, but you're also trying to get like equipment for that room that you're building and stuff like that. It's fine for what it does. I just thought it was a little bit more convoluted than something like Cascadia, because Cascadia was such a very streamlined game.
It was.
And so it's hard for me to not try to be nice. I have to argue for Verdant, and it does really well. The art is fantastic in that game, and the components are really well. The graphic design is easily readable. I have a little bit of issues with the colorblind unfriendliness of it at times, because there's certain things where I'm like, wait, hold on, is this over here or that? But the problem is, I don't really feel the immersiveness of this. I don't feel like I'm building a plant room. My wife looked at it, and she loves plants. Our spare bedroom is all about like in-house plants and stuff like that. And she's like, yeah, it doesn't seem all that interesting, because she saw us play it that one time when Damn It Don brought it over. But the art and production's fine on it. They're fantastic. There is some smart choices, just like you have in Cascadia. You do have those meaningful choices. But I can't get it ease of play. It's not simpler than Between Two Cities, which is shockingly enough, because you think you're building 2 cities.
Well, they both do very similar things, right? You're laying down the tiles or cards and trying to score in different aspects of it. But you're right, Between Two Cities does it in a more clever way.
And there's no replay value really for Verdant, because there's no expansions that I can remember. The only difference between games is just how the tiles lay out for you and how they work. As much as I enjoyed the play of Verdant, I I can't see it moving on because I don't think it wins anywhere other than maybe the art and production, because I think at its core, Between Two Cities. Now, I haven't tried the new edition. I do have the Essential Edition for this one, but the original Between Two Cities, the art was fine.
It does not showcase Beth Sobel's art, which is really the reason we're here.
Yeah, so, but I think everything else Between Two Cities moves on.
I couldn't agree more. You know, one thing that I'm finding, well, I'll get into it when we come into the debates, but I mean, there's something that is ongoing with a lot of these games that I really appreciate, and I'm going to be bringing them up during our next debate. Okay. So, let's find out where they were ranked from the viewers at home, rating it on, remember, the Board Game Revolution forum at our group in Facebook. If you ever want to vote for these, we can take votes live as well, but this is what they voted for. Daniel, the 4 that got eliminated, how did they rank?
Endangered was the first one eliminated. That was our number 8 seed. It was at 2% of the vote.
Yep.
Snowtails was our number 7 seed, and it was eliminated at 0% of the vote. I just don't think that game gets its love like it should. Yep. Lanterns was eliminated at 1% of the vote, and Verdant also had 1% of the vote.
Cool. All right.
Moving on to
obviously some pretty high votes coming up pretty soon for not an accident reason.
Yeah, and a lot of these do showcase good games, but fantastic use of art.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into it. We're going to get our number 1 seed Wingspan versus our number 5 seed Between Two Cities. Here we go. That's you.
All right, let's see. Stonemaier versus Stonemaier, and I get Wingspan again.
Okay.
All right, so Between Two Cities and Wingspan, Stonemaier versus Stonemaier.
Yep.
When we're talking about art production, you have Stonemaier going against it. So...
All 3 Stonemaiers went on, by the way. All 3 and one of the 2 AEGs.
Yeah, so that's saying something. And if you notice too, a lot of the 2 of the 4 are relatively new games.
Yes.
And that's because a lot of times you're seeing more and more people putting emphasis on the art in the art and the production value of these games.
Right.
I think Wingspan is the better game out of the 2. I think Wingspan is probably my favorite out of all the Stonemaier lines, even though I really do enjoy Viticulture a lot. And I think it's because, one, the art is fantastic in this game. When we're comparing the art head-to-head between the 2 games, the art and production value alone is going to defeat Between Two Cities. Other than Between Two Cities, the player pieces that designate which player is, you can tell which cities I'm working on, are fantastic. And because Jamie Stegmaier is from St. Louis, he puts the St. Louis Arch in every game.
Yeah, which is funny.
But other than that, it doesn't showcase Beth Sobel's art like Wingspan does. The production value, I think, is slightly better, especially if you start buying the upgrade bits, but that's neither here nor there. But when it comes to like that meaningful choice, and because your meaningful choices in there is based on a blind draw, and then you're trying to decide where these tokens are going, which works better for you. Where the other one is like, I can do this action, which will make this action a little better, or I can put this bird down there, which is giving me more choices later on down the line. Plus, I can do player abilities based on the birds I put out there. So there's a lot of meaningful choice. Between Two Cities is a much simpler game. Much simpler compared to Wingspan. I liked how a lot of people talked about how Wingspan is a gateway game. It is not. I consider Wingspan a next step game. If you want a gateway introductory game, then I would say something like Gizmos for when we're talking about engine builders. After that, I would go Earth. And then after that, I would introduce Wingspan.
I agree with that, yeah.
So, Between Two Cities easily wins...
ease of play.
Ease of play.
Yep.
So, outside of that... I think Wingspan moves on because I think it wins a lot more of the gamer criteria, especially when it comes to replay value because of all the expansions that it's got.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. You have some very meaningful choice in both of them. The engine building is important, but I do want to clarify, the random does have a factor. What I was going to bring up that I really like about games like this, and we're noticing more of a trend in games nowadays that do this, is games that have a very simple choice at the beginning, but meaningful choice, but very simple choices, but give players the leeway to have a lot of decent and meaningful scoring at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Like, I ranted about it earlier with Nunatak. I feel that does it. Cascadia does the same thing, because scoring... There's no bad moves, but you have a simple options at the beginning.
Yeah.
Trekking Through History does that too. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of these, I call them yes and games.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like, I'm getting this, yes, and because I'm doing that, I get this as well. And so you feel really clever. And Between Two Cities, I feel, was like one of the first ones to really do that. You draw 2 tiles, where are they going, or which tiles am I putting where? Mm-hmm. That's a really clever feeling, because again, it has that clever aspect that I don't get in Wingspan. And I've always appreciated that. That's not to say it's necessarily more strategic or anything. It's just that makes me really enjoy it more. I do feel personally that I am building 2 cities, that I'm very invested in how they appear at the end. So I would personally give it game immersion and ease of play, but those are the only 2 I would still.
Yeah.
And we can debate it all we want, but like
I do think
meaningful choice, replay value, and
replay value is not going to be touched by pretty much any game that goes up against Wingspan, because it is by far one of the best supported games from Stonemaier.
Yes.
To the point where they've already established there's going to be 6 expansions for this game.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, that's good for the expandability,
yeah,
right?
No, but I'm saying, just for that alone, and then just out of the base game too, just because you're not going to see every bird in every game on a few games.
But you're also, like, as far as length of time and scaling well, right?
That is a different story, yes.
Between Two Cities trumps it hands down, right? It's not even close.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it's there. Other than those aspects, again, I give it ease of play, and I do give it more game immersion, because I do feel like the building types that you're putting down really do make sense thematically, right? Whereas, like,
you don't want to build an
watching a bird suddenly doesn't make me watch other birds easier, right? That's not how science works. That's how biology works, but not science. No, like, just because I see an eagle doesn't mean now I'm suddenly going to see a parrot a lot easier. Like, or it's like I'm building a nest for, like, I just still don't feel the theme in it, but I do believe Wingspan does deserve to move on as well.
I don't disagree with you. I just think, for me, I think Wingspan does more of the criteria better. But again, game immersion is such a...
it's fairly subjective.
Yeah, it's one of our more subjective ones, like art and production. But at least with art and production, the other 2 criterias in there outside of art is not as subjective.
Right, yeah, it's not as subjective. It's pretty obvious, right. All right, so I agree. Wingspan moves on.
All right.
Now we have Viticulture, and Essential Edition, and Cascadia. Here we go. You'll be starting us off again.
All right.
Maybe I'll... Oh, wait, no. That's it. I won't start us off at all anymore.
Nope. That's it. You got one shot.
I had one shot, and I think I owned it.
All right, so the first one I got is Cascadia.
Okay.
And so I just realized, out of the one shot that you got to argue, you have to argue it again.
Yep.
All right, so
that's fine.
Between Viticulture and Cascadia, I like both of these games. I think they're both fantastic. I think both of these games fall within my top 100 games of all time, one more so than the other. Mm-hmm. But I think they both do a fantastic job. I will say right here, right now, Cascadia wins ease of play, no problem. Yep. It's much simpler. There. No, don't get me wrong. Worker placement is not that bad, but because of where the worker placement stuff is and all the other moving parts you got to deal with in Viticulture, Cascadia just trumps it.
Yeah, it's not even close. Yeah.
And that's why when we're talking about ease of play, that's why we have the 3 different criterias, the sub-criterias in those. The simplicity and the familiarity of the mechanism, I think worker placement will be more prevalent to people, because that's a lot of people's favorite mechanism out there.
Sure.
Because of stuff like Lords of Waterdeep and so forth. But because of the theming of, say, Cascadia, where you're just out in the forest and you're seeing all these animals and stuff like that, and just the look of it is fantastic too. The art and production, I think, as much as I love the production value in Viticulture, I think the art is stronger in Cascadia.
Yep.
And I think the graphic design is relatively fine in both games. I just think the art just comes out a little bit more in Cascadia.
Okay.
My thing is, I love viticulture. I just don't see it moving on this one, because what Cascadia does, it does very well in a much simpler turn. Now, like, when we go into replay value, I think viticulture wins that one hands down, because other than the length of time and scaling well, Cascadia plays quicker at a decent sized player count, even though viticulture can play more. But the fact of the matter is, you have one expansion, what I'm talking about, expansions. The length of time is in knock to viticulture.
Yes.
The minimum number of plays for full experience. You have to play multiple times to see everything in both games. However, they all score pretty much the same in viticulture, is based on the cards that you're pulling. Yep. The cards vary each time you're playing, and that's why I think minimum number play of full experience goes to Cascadia, as well as the length of time and scaling.
Right. Well, outside of the base game,
outside expandability, the expansions and stuff like that, that's a whole other thing. There's one expansion compared to like 3 or 4.
Right.
But still, I think 2 out of 3 does Cascadia. Ease of play to Cascadia. Meaningful choice, I think, slightly goes to Cascadia, just because you can impact other player strategy, especially if you're choosing to use your acorns to take something they're also trying to target.
Right.
So you can impact other players. And then it's that choice. It's like, I'm giving up a point to decide to take this tile and this way I can expand my force, but then I can place this eagle or hawk, and so it's very smart on what it does.
Yes.
I think Cascadia moves on, but let's hear what you guys say about viticulture.
So yeah, you're right about viticulture. I mean, as far as replay value, sure, expansions, but that's also part of the problem, right? Mm-hmm. I consider it having 2 expansions, and I'll tell you why. When they reworked the Tuscany expansion to create the Essential Edition, and now they have the Essential Edition for Tuscany, you can't count the previous versions that reiterated this. This is essentially a second edition, but it has the Tuscany Essential Edition expansion, and it has the Viticulture Worlds.
No. They have the 2 smaller expansions, too. You have the Visitors from the Rhinelands, and then there's the Moors and something. There's 2 small little card ones.
Yeah, those are basically promos.
They're not promos. They're actual expansions that you can buy.
And sure. Either way, yeah.
To the point, I got one half off it.
I still only consider it 2 real expansions.
2 big expansions.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean that's 2 substantive expansions. Like you
one
have
of the
things that modular, but regardless, right? Mm-hmm. Cascadia, though, the length of time and scaling well is what really fits it well.
Yes.
It plays a wide range. And the replay value alone, just because of the different animal types and how each one of those, it has the same thing that Cubitos does. There's multiple cards for each animal type, and that can add flavor and combinations that are unlike any others.
3 or 4 cards per animal type. Yeah.
Right, which is massive. Mm-hmm. That is like 4 factorial is like what you can do.
Yeah.
Or 4 like to the power of 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy big, the number of permutations that you can play.
For a small box game at
feel different. Yeah. And it's not just like, oh, well, like, this will score 2 points versus next time it'll score 3 points.
Yeah.
No. It's a very different style how they work, and it makes sense for the animals, too. Mm-hmm. So, like, I mean, I agree with you. I do think this should move on for a lot of these, like, little nitpicky moments that we bring up, that it makes you feel clever. It feels a little more thematic. The art is a little bit cleaner. And the people who like viticulture really like viticulture, and rightfully so. It's a smart, interesting game. But the people who like Cascadia love it. Well, it's not just that. It's almost anybody can pick up that box. They're drawn in by the reason we're debating today. Beth Sobel's art on that cover will bring them in. Mm-hmm. They'll put it down, and they will have a good time with their family, whether they're gamers or not. And that's something that's valued.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all. So
I think Cascadia moves on.
I agree with you. As much as I like viticulture, viticulture is still my favorite worker placement game. It's still in my top 10 games of all time, but we try to take our bias out of it.
Yep.
But here's the thing. As much as I love viticulture, I play Cascadia over viticulture just because of the time. Yeah. I can get more gaming done because of that. Now, if I want to do one game, sure, I'll pick viticulture. But if I want to play more games, I take Cascadia because I get a nice crunchy feel quickly.
Right, exactly. Like almost any group you come with, they're like, hey, like what's a game that will fit with you? Probably Cascadia will work. It's a like if any group went up to you, it's like if some non-gamers like they're like, oh, what's that viticulture thing? Is that about wine? Cool, let's play it. You would take a moment. You're like, will this work for my group? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's huge. Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting criteria to think about.
Yeah, because again, one of our things in ease of play is that easy to teach, understand, or learn.
Yeah,
Cascadia is much easier to teach and much easier to learn.
Yes.
Than now, understand because of the way the scoring works can be a little difficult, but other than that, it does 2 out of the 3 better.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, so before we move on to our final rounds, the 2 games that got eliminated was between 2 cities. It had 2% of our vote, and our number 2 seed, Viticulture, gets upset by our number 3 seed, Cascadia. Viticulture had 30% of the vote.
Yeah. Now, yeah, I'm really curious to see how this one is going to work out. And again, in this finals round, we take, we do not pick sides, we do not argue anything. We just simply break it down by the 5 G.A.M.E.R criteria that we're going to be using. Again, those criteria are we're spelling the word gamer, by the way. I don't know if you getting that. Anyway, so game immersion, ease of play, meaningful choice.
Hold on. Game immersion.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Art and production.
I'm doing the G.A.M.E.R. The G.A.M.E.R. Yeah.
Meaningful choice, ease of play, and replay value.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing the G.A.M.E.R. Sorry.
G.A.M.E.R.
We're getting used to this, guys. This is a new change for us.
All right. So there are 2 that jump out to me. Hands down, we don't have to debate. Ease of play is Cascadia.
Yep. I agree with that.
Replay value is, or not a replay value, art and production is Wingspan.
I agree with that. And I'm glad I don't have to argue it because I 100% agree.
Now,
the art is completely on point on both of them. They both represent their art as good as they can, which is why we're debating this in the first place.
But because of the production value of Stone.Meyer games, it's going to be very hard for someone to beat that. I would pick a Stone.Meyer production value over a C.A.M.E.R production value with all their minis because that's how good they are.
The only weird little quarrel I could even kind of argue with Wingspan is that the text is a little small on some of the cards. That's like really, and I'm hurting to like argue that much. As far as the production goes,
you know what else?
And the eggs are different colors for no specific
reason other than it just looks nice for the birds.
Yeah.
Because all the birds don't lay the same colored eggs. So.
Yep. Sure.
But you know what I find funny about that aspect of it, where you're talking about like the script is hard.
Yeah.
Because a lot of older individuals play this game now because they're all birders and they found this game based on that. They made a pack where you can buy the card that are eye friendly. Or they have bigger text on it for people to visually read it better.
That's really cool of them. Awesome. So you consider that an expansion?
No, that is not an expansion because it's the same cards just with better text.
Yep. Cool. All right. Which is why we don't do component upgrades as expansions.
All right. Replay value, I think, is going to be the deciding one of the deciding factors here because Cascadia is better when it comes to the length of time and the scaling well.
Sure.
But expandability is straight up Wingspan.
Right.
So it's the minimum number of plays for the full experience. And this is where it's tough for me on that aspect of it because both of them do it really well outside of the base box.
Right.
Every bird out of the base box of Wingspan has a different power.
Right.
They also have very different stats that allow you to do some of the power. So there is variability how you're going to do that aspect of it. Same thing with Cascadia that we talked about, that each one of those things are going to score differently based on what they're doing. We didn't even mention the goal cards in there in things. So for me, I honestly believe replay value is a wash. Because each one wins a sub-criteria, and I think the minimum number of plays for the full experience...
So here's I get what you're saying, and I'm gonna make a counter argument. I'm not saying that I disagree with you, but I am gonna make a counter.
So you're gonna disagree with me?
No, I'm bringing up 2 very specific points. The goals that you have in the goals that you have in Wingspan are essentially just like variations on kind of the same aspects. Like it's Like, give me an example of a goal.
Beaks facing left.
Okay, yeah. So beaks facing left, right? So it's based on the picture of it, and it's slightly different. It's telling you who's going for the majority of it, right? More on a lot of the goal tiles.
No, I'm talking about the goal cards. There's a gold tile or tiles too.
Right.
So
isn't it just the gold tiles in Wingspan that are on the base game?
No, you have gold cards as well.
Yeah, but those are private, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so those are different things versus each
but I'm
animal
saying you
scores...
have two different things.
Right, but in Cascadia, those are universal goals, and they are solid throughout the whole game. And where it doesn't feel like a permutation, it feels like an actual difference in the gameplay. Because that will not only affect how you lay your animal tiles, also how you lay your landscape tiles.
Well, if you're...
Because of how you're doing that.
Oh,
No, hold on, I'm not disagreeing. Hold on, let me finish my point, because I'm almost done. But what I'm saying, though, is that...
You're making a roundabout argument that doesn't make sense if you're just comparing it
to I haven't finished
the tokens.
No, yes, because the tokens are just universal general variations on the same thing.
No, they're not. They're completely different.
What I'm saying is that... Hold on, I haven't finished. What I'm saying is that in Cascadia, since those are the defined parameters that you're going throughout the whole game that affect both your tile and your animal placement... that are thematic to those specific, that is a bigger variation than getting different bird cards throughout that. Because you're going to go through about a fourth of the deck, meaning, yeah, right, per gameplay, you go through about a fourth of the deck total, right,
Maybe, yeah.
amongst the players. So that means that you realistically have 4 games throughout that. And you'd have different end game goals that you're going through it. Not functionally different stuff, it's just different ways of scoring. Where I feel like it's more impactful in that. Now, I'm not saying per capita it's different.
I need to get you to play Wingspan more because you don't remember the tiles are completely different. Some of them are no eggs in one area. Some are beaks facing left. Some are... So that will change how you're going to do things too.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And they're double-sided, so what you have in one game is not going to be in the other game.
But what I'm saying, though, is that the endgame conditions in Cascadia affect 2 very different aspects. They base scoring on your terrain type and your animals because of how they have to come out. I have to consider both of those aspects when laying down a single tile and the single animal.
The animal cards only score the animal. The terrain types score differently at the end of the game.
Right. No, what I'm saying is, though, since the animals can only go on certain ones based on the icon that's on the tile, those are the extra considerations I have to make when I'm scoring this. So, for example, if I'm trying to get fish in a river, like in a straight line, like on the same river, if I'm pulling a water tile that doesn't support a fish, then that is an extra level of consideration that I have to consider. Are you disagreeing with that?
I am, quite honestly.
No, I don't get how you don't see the difference in those two.
I understand what you're trying to say, but you're trying to roll out the difference with the gold tokens, which have variability based on that aspect.
But they're one aspect of the things.
Not to mention your private gold cards as well.
Yeah.
And some of those private gold cards can kind of work with other birds. Because, like, if I have to get something that is supposed to be body parts, but someone else needs to get something that is color-based, we're going to be drafting the same type of birds if both have color in things. So it's the same concept, just differently. You just have to... How you're going to play your turn is based on what you see there plus what you have in your hand compared to what you're doing over there, because the in-game scoring doesn't change other than the animal cards. The land tiles will always score the same every game. The only variation is how you're going to place those animals on said land tile based on the animal scoring. Doesn't change the fact that Wingspan has the same kind of concept based on what cards you're going to be drafting.
Okay.
Be based on your end-of-round goals plus your game goal cards.
I guess let me clarify it then, because let me explain. If you're not going to listen, then I won't clarify it. But what I mean by that is the only way you're scoring in Cascadia. That is your only impact, is those animals that are out. Versus in Wingspan, your endgame goals, yes, it gives you points, but there's so many other ways to get points that it's less of an impact. That is specifically what you're going for in Cascadia.
That's different than what we're arguing right now.
That's what I'm saying, is that there's more ways to score.
We are arguing replay value, not meaningful choice.
Yes,
you're making a round.
What I'm saying, though, is because that's such a big difference in the game...
It is not that big of a...
That's what it changes why it's so different when you pick a different animal. That is your only source of points, is those animals in Cascadia. That's a huge aspect of the game. That's like me saying in Wingspan, you're all playing, but you can't use the ground level. Like, it's such a big thing in that.
But you're arguing meaningful choice in the replay value criteria.
I'm saying since you're trading out literally a fifth of the game with every animal versus... Like, that's why it has that much replay value. You're literally modifying a fifth of the game with every different change of the animal.
I tried calling it a wash.
I'm willing to call it a wash, but I'm just saying that's why I'm calling it a wash, is because that's such a massive impact.
Yes, but you're arguing it in a different category based on how you're making the impact. The minimum number of plays for the full experience, they're both interchangeable in a certain way, because you're going to have different end-of-round goal cards, and you're going to have different
That's not why I'm saying it that way. I'm saying you're changing a major aspect of the game every time you have a different animal. And that replay is enough to have a completely different strategy. In Wingspan, you're having the same strategy throughout the entire game, regardless of the goal cards. You have a slight difference in it because you can get points.
My issue
different.
with it is he's arguing it in the wrong criteria.
All right, fine. Then we'll give meaningful choice to Cascadia then.
Yes, I have no problem doing that. You're just making it in the wrong category.
So we're calling it a wash for replay.
You're arguing meaningful choice for replay value. That's my issue.
Okay, fine. If we want to count it that way, I'm just saying... Like, if I took off a fourth of the game in Wingspan and changed it to a different way, like, let's just take off the bottom part of the board. Like, would that not impact it more than just goal cards? It would, right? Since it's such a big impact on the game.
But that goes into meaningful choice. That's what I'm trying to say. We're talking about the minimum number of plays for the full experience.
That's the modular setup. That's replay value.
Each one has a modular setup.
Yeah, but not really in Wingspan. It's not a modular setup just because you get a different hand of cards. And slightly different ways to score points in slightly different ways. That's not modular setup. No, Wingspan's the same game, just slightly different ways to score points. Like, oh, this card is worth more to me. That's a different setup.
All right, I'm moving on. We've already decided replay value and meaningful choice. So the last one here we have is game immersion. Because your argument doesn't make sense in that criteria, but I'm leaving it alone. Game immersion. Which game is more fun to lose? They're both actually more abstract than you would think. And all
they're both. Neither of them are thematic. Let's be real.
Not that thematic, no. Other than my personal experience as a birder, but all it is really feels thematically in Wingspan is you're checking off that thing in the Audubon. That's all it is.
That's really all it is. Yeah, and really all you're doing, like in Cascadia. On the flip side, it's like, it's like, okay, I want the fish to be in a line, sure. There's that. I don't want eagles next to each other. Okay, yeah, like that's about right, you know. And Masmo feels like a bird when they're playing Wingspan. That's awesome. You almost had a spit take. That was brilliant.
I do like one aspect that it happens in Wingspan is the hunting. I do like that aspect because it's like, you got to check the wingspan of this. It's not a successful hunt. It's not really that immersive. I just really find that fun.
Sure.
Player interactions.
Neither.
Memorable
moments. Neither.
For me, there's a little bit more memorable moments in Wingspan because of the fact that it's an engine builder. If you get that engine to fire awesome, you're gonna feel really cool about it. Like, your cards are laying properly. Your hunting is going really well. My most recent game of it, my friend really enjoyed the fact because for the first time ever, she didn't play the egg game where you just load up on eggs and because those are going to be victory points at the end of the game. She played the tuck game and it scored her like 80 points just on the tuck cards in her or the hunting game is what it is. So there's a lot of tuck cards where she's building flocks. plus all the fishing that she's done based off the dice rolls out of the game and stuff like that. That is the only memorable moment I know is like when you get that injured firing off. You get that in a lot of engine building games. Case in point, we talked about gizmos. When you got your engine going boom, 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 and you feel clever. That is the only memorable moments I have from Wingspan is when that engine fires, you feel that coming. Where you feel clever about how you got that engine to work. Other than that, there's not a lot of memorable moments in these games.
Really not. I mean, yeah, like at the end game scoring, like when you in Cascadia, like when you, it's like, man, like I really played heavy in the bird game,
exactly,
or like that. Yeah, like we almost got to call it a wash.
Yeah,
right?
I'd say because like if you do really well, like, oh man, I should have put this eagle here rather than here, and then I would have that nice little triangle that would score. That or if you do get that eagle properly, like, all right, you feel clever on that aspect.
They're all a knight's move away. That's right.
It's like, okay, now I feel clever. So for me, right there is a wash, just because, again, because Wingspan is an engine builder. When you get that engine firing properly, you have that memorable moment. Other than that, that's not there.
Right.
Same thing with Cascadia. If you get that really cool scoring aspect, so I consider that a wash. But with that being said, 2 washes, 2 wins to 1.
Do we want to debate meaningful choice? Because we haven't actually debated it. I just facetiously said, all right, it goes to that then.
I mean, we can.
I think, in all fairness, I think we do need to break it down. Just to give the opportunity.
Impact on other player strategies.
Definitely Cascadia.
Cascadia.
Right.
Because...
Absolutely.
Especially when you go into like the expansion and stuff like that, there's different house rules that people do. Like one of my favorite things is like one pile is just for one bird, one pile is for the other bird.
Sure.
And but out of base game,
right? You're not.
You only have basically 3 or 4 birds that you can draw from.
Yeah.
Not really impacting other player strategy. It's multiplayer solitaire at a point.
Yeah.
Depth of strategy, tactics, or skills. I think that is Wingspan based on the fact that you're building your engine properly.
Right. I don't agree with that. Just because a lot of the stuff is you know, we're having to check on dog span real quick. Hold on. I the reason I don't think it is because there's so many, and this goes more into like the arbitrary choices.
Yes.
I feel like
you're arguing in the wrong spot.
Yeah, okay. Fine. Depth of strategy, tactics, or skills. I don't know. I don't feel either one is stronger, but I'll give you Wingspan, sure. But arbitrary choices, the luck of the card, there's just so many opportunities in Wingspan where everything is good. And there's a lot of times where it's like, or you could arbitrarily make your decisions.
And the thing is,
there's so much stuff to consider.
It's not even that. AP. It's everything's good or everything's bad, because based on what flips up in the tray.
Right.
Or what gets rolled in the dice tower.
Exactly. It's like, I don't have the food, so I guess I'll do this. Well, I don't have the eggs, so I guess I'll do that. No, the cards kind of suck for me. Right.
Yeah.
And when that hurts, it really hurts.
Yeah.
Whereas, since there's only the 5 different types of animals in Cascadia, I do feel that it's like, well, they're all good options, but there's clearly like, I can work towards this at a future turn more.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
Okay.
I personally think Wingspan's the better game, but that's because I like engine builders more.
Sure.
Because both of them have birds in them.
Sure.
I just wish there was different birds in Cascadia other than just red-tailed hawks.
Right.
It's like, give me an eagle or something. Come on, man.
Come on. All right, well then that now we have officially decided it. Now, instead of arguing our way to it,
I was going to give meaningful choice to Cascadia anyways because of the arbitrary choices aspect.
In our fairness, we need to give it that, right? We got to give it that opportunity. With that being said, our winner today for the best game with Beth Sobel art, which is arguably with the fact that it highlights just her art.
Yeah, exactly.
And it does it so beautifully. It really doesn't have.
But Cascadia's not got a book based on its art, right?
Yeah, but it also has 2 other artists, so whatevs. That doesn't even count. It should have been disqualified from the beginning. We don't even like this. All right, Cascadia Span is the winner today.
Wingspan was our number 1 vote getter. It had 44% of the vote. Cascadia was our 3rd best at 18% of the vote.
Very good.
But what's interesting on our gamer criteria, 2 washes and a 2-1 victory for Cascadia.
That's right.
And you say, I'm biased when Wingspan with his Spiel des Jahres winners over here. He's not going to let any Spiel winner lose.
I was arguing against Wingspan, not for Cascadia. There is a difference. That my hatred for Stonemaier apparently is way harder.
Masmo says he feels like Cascadia is more fillerish than Wingspan.
Absolutely.
Wingspan is a much meatier game. But that's why we break it down into the G.A.M.E.R criteria here, because we need to give the filler games their due justice as well.
Right. Filler games can be just as strategic. I mean, you don't need a 2-hour game.
Exactly.
If you're playing a game of Quarto, right? If you're playing it for 2 hours, you're playing it wrong, really. You're hurting yourself. But that's a more meaningful choice than something with a deck of cards, right?
Yeah.
Automatically. So, but yeah, Masmo and Creative Chaos, thank you guys for tuning in. If you ever want to email us directly, you can email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com, and you can tell us whether you want to enter in future contests, ideas for future episodes, or just drop us a line and say hi. We also have an Instagram, instagram.com/everydayboardgames, and you can see some of the new posts and some of the videos that we posted.
As well as all video re-uploads are found on YouTube for our podcast, as well as our reviews at youtube.com/@everydayboardgames. And if you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on the platform. Subscribe if you're not, like the video, and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject.
We also like to hear your thoughts live and join in on the discussion, because we do value your opinions. Like I said, our friends Masmo and Creative Chaos who tuned in today, and anybody else who tuned in who didn't chat with us, you can join us on live episodes generally speaking, Mondays every week on twitch.tv/everydayboardgames.
All audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, and Apple.
So we want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.